Okay, now, as I said about doing all the stuff I just talked about, I'd like to take a second to talk about the siege engines themselves in Alexander. In this game, all the factions are limited to whatever their men can couple together in the field. That means there are no catapults, no onagers, light or heavy ballistae, and my thoughts on that are mixed, really. On one hand, the entire campaign is built around your foe's superiority in ranged combat, which forces you to attack them every time. And that's actually pretty close to the historical situation. That tactical setup, however, would be nullified if you were able to just sit back and blast your foes with exploding boulders from a quarter mile away. Because one problem with the Rome game engine, which Alexander uses, is that every battle that involves artillery in any way turns into the opening scene from Gladiator. On the other hand, it's not like Alexander never used artillery. One of the most spectacular sieges of his campaign was a coastal city called Tyre, on the coast of modern-day Lebanon. Tyre was a coastal fortress which took Alexander 7 months to capture, pounding the walls and defenders with ship-mounted artillery, while his engineers built a causeway connecting the city to the mainland. That would be an awesome siege to reenact in this game, but again, we're limited by the Rome engine, which, as you know, affords almost zero variety in city layout. In Rome, once you've seen one city, you've pretty much seen all of them, with the only differences being the size of the city and from what direction you attack as you march to the city center. I think the developers actually did a really good job of at least masking this fact with the unique AI scripting and deployment. In that way, Halicarnassis is still an interesting scenario, even for the Total War veteran. And here come the bastards. The Persians have 4 units of heavy cavalry and 2 units of horse archers, but they squander them pretty badly. If you do well enough during this part of the battle, you'll never have to worry about cavalry again. I could have put my phalanxes closer to the gate and positioned them closer to each other, but I guess like Alexander, I'm always rushing into things too quickly. It may look like I'm neglecting my left flank, and really they're just going to have to make do for now. But they managed to hold their own pretty well. Attack!
The towers are at the walls! Reinforce the attackers and crush the defenders! Our soldiers have reached the walls with ladders! The bravest will soon be over the defenses!
So, the ladders on the left have been dropped because the men carrying them have taken too many casualties. There's not enough men to actually carry them anymore, so send reinforcements to take up the task. And over there's Memnon with the large banner. He and his cavalry have slipped behind our main line and are causing havoc. But don't you worry, we'll bring him down soon enough. But aside from him, we've actually driven back the rest of the Persian cavalry. Most of them are running for their lives. So once you've done that, once you've brutalized the enemy cavalry, you don't need men at the gate anymore. And by that point, your ladders in the tower have reached the wall. So break up your front line and send them to the walls. Send them up and over. So, I know what this looks like. I know it looks like this spot has glitched out and our men are having difficulty actually picking up the ladders, but that's not actually the case. You see what the bad guys did before we arrived? They nailed the ladders to the ground. It's kind of like gluing a quarter to the sidewalk. You see, the AI, it turns out, is actually really clever after all.
Our soldiers have reached the walls with ladders! The bravest will soon be over the defenses!
Yeah, that one ladder is not exactly going to be a torrent of reinforcements. But oh look, there's Memnon, all by himself, surrounded by our men. Impossible odds, yet he's kicking ass. Fighting till the end. You know, it usually annoys the hell out of me when an enemy general escapes and returns with an even larger force, but I'll make an exception in this case, because Memnon, think about it, just the name Memnon is such a good name for a nemesis.
Great gods be praised! The enemy general is killed! Fear makes a home in our enemy's hearts!
Nemesis. Oh, forget it. So, my dudes over here are fighting immortals, and those don't work properly in this scenario either. Immortals fill a similar role as Hypaspists in this game. They are medium spearmen with a ranged component. They're supposed to use their bows when engaging at range, but I've never actually seen them shoot from atop these walls. If they had, this scenario would certainly have been a lot harder. In melee combat, Immortals aren't nearly as intimidating as their depiction in pop culture, and a unit of Hypaspists will almost always win against a unit of Immortals, at least on normal difficulty, which is what we're playing. Now, I placed Alexander and his unit at the bottom of the ladders in this area because he has an area of effect bonus on my men's morale. This becomes critical, actually, in the final minutes of this battle, when your men are exhausted, depleted, they've taken bad casualties, they just want the day to be over, and it helps to have their general behind them encouraging him. It does not help to have my men still trying to pick up those ladders, so you really have to keep an eye out on this spot. This area in particular is actually really glitchy. Previous time that I played this battle, I actually had a unit of men get stuck there. I'm lucky this time it was just ladders, because you can just forget about ladders. Once the siege tower's up, yeah, you can see that's working pretty well. You will always take this part of the wall, the left part, first, so rush your men over to the gatehouse and let Alexander into the city on the off chance that any of the Persians on the wall trying to flee back into the city. They probably won't, though. The perimeter defenders are all fighting to the death right now. Begin moving your ranged units into the city while your infantry are playing mop-up. So the first 90% of this scenario is over. It's the second 90%, that's the hard part. I'm skipping a couple minutes ahead to show you this spot. This is a pretty sweet spot where we're going to be attacking the square from. It's a good spot to amass your forces before mounting a final assault on the city square. There's no point in trying to attack from any other direction because all the entrances to the square are equally well guarded. Also, at this point your men are all probably exhausted, so make sure they walk, don't run, and no eating before jumping in the pool. Did you put your sunblock on? You won't encounter any resistance between the walls and the city square. You can just march through the streets unchallenged. So while the rest of the army is getting to position, here's a little bit of fun. Here's a neat little thing. A test tube demonstration of the power of a phalanx. This single unit of spearmen is kind of hiding in an alley here. I think they're intended to pop out and surprise us from behind once we've advanced far enough. I don't really know. I've never been able to resist the temptation to destroy them on my way there. So with Alexander standing by on the side for some emergency cleanup, in case I fuck this up, let's go! And isn't that just the cutest thing? So they're in a hopeless situation, they realize this, they run, and so do we, because while we're doing all this, we're actually being shot at by one of the guard towers. But as long as you don't take forever to do this, you're not going to take any significant casualties from it.